Okay, welcome to How to Have Fun in Mordhau, episode 3, where I try to record this for the third time because my recording continuously cuts out. Bad news for me, but good news for you, because now that I know what I'm trying to say, hopefully this video is only like 3 to 5 minutes, and we can kind of get through this as fast as we can. So, feints. Frick feints, am I right, guys? Feinting is one of those things that you're going to see it's plagued the Steam forum. I mean, it's just like broken mechanic. I don't know how they even bothered to... How'd this make through playtesting? I mean, come on, guys, right? But in all reality, I mean, feinting is quite simple, right? You're just stopping your attack in the wind-up, right? We spoke about this before, but in case you hadn't seen it, attacks have 3 phases, right? We have this wind-up phase. This yell indicates that we're in release, and then, I mean, not necessarily, but, you know, for the sake of this video, it indicates that we're in release. And then you have this recovery. And this recovery phase, obviously, you can't do damage. It's kind of like just like an ending, you know? It's a lag. You know, in fighting games, it would be recovery and... yeah, recovery frames or whatever, right? We got the active frames and we have startup, which would be wind up, right? So anytime during the startup or the wind up, you're allowed to feint, right? So that means you can do a very quick one, right? Or a delayed one, very delayed. Some weapons have very long wind ups and you can do really stupid feints. So they become very, very like intimidating new players. I mean, you'll see good players just run at people like this. It's just silly. It's really just pathetic. I mean, I don't know. You know, and then people are parrying constantly, so that can be really frustrating because it sucks to just sit there and you're parrying and you're just desperate, like, no, don't kill, and then you just die. It's like so frustrating. So we already talked about the just swing mentality, and like, you know, if we're gonna die swinging. But how can we kind of refine that? And we're gonna refine that through chambering. And this is sort of like it's impossible to talk about feints and how to deal with them without sort of talking about chambers. There are obviously a lot of different ways to beat feints, but I think chambers are kind of the easiest one. And for the sake of invasion, this trick that I'm going to give you is going to work, honestly, I would say at least half the players. I want to say like 80% of players this, you know, kind of flowchart will work with, but yeah. So, long story short, when you're learning how to chamber, right, chambering is essentially like, it's a tighter window than parrying, so you have to be a little bit more specific. The parry window is like up for the whole time that shield is up, and chambers are a very tight window. So you pretty much have to initiate your attack during, just before you get hit by an opponent's attack. So if they're trying to swing on you, right, you'd have to, like, for example, do a right strike. You'd have to do a left strike, right? It's a mirrored attack, right? So you imagine yourself looking at a mirror, right? So if somebody's trying to do a right overhead, like so, right? Imagine this is your player. I'm trying to hit you with a right overhead. From your perspective, right, that right overhead is coming from your left. So you end up doing a left overhead. But frankly, you know, and people argue against this, I'm sure, but to be completely honest, I see people run at me in Invasion, right striking, like, you know, 80, 90% of the time. I don't see people do pretty much anything else. Maybe right overhead is also a pretty popular one, but that's about it. And obviously stabs are just so easy, so we're going to include those. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to tell you this, all right? You started the just swing mentality. Maybe you're seeing it's working, but, you know, you're getting killed a lot, but at least you're getting killed swinging. How can you refine this to make it a little bit more effective? You're going to be chambering. Now, I still want you to do the just swing mentality. I think that if you're going to die swinging. You know, only really parry people that you can accurately read. Don't fall for feints. But if you're going to, right, and you want to kind of challenge somebody and you want to do it a little bit more, you know, of a brain. See, make sure I'm recording. Thank goodness. If you want to do it a little bit more of a brain, you're going to want to chamber. So I'm going to suggest chambering only 2 attacks. I'm going to suggest chambering stabs, because stabs, there are different variants of stabs, as you can see, like puts his arms to the right, to the left, a little bit lower, right, like so. There are different variants, but they all get chambered with each other. So you just stab and you'll be able to chamber. So just before you get hit by a stab, try to stab his weapon. And then we're going to be chambering right strikes with left strike. Now for all your 240 players, this might be a little bit inconvenient. You have to whip to the left and then do it, but it should be easy. You just see where their weapon's coming from. But just picking these 2 attacks, right, start swinging. Very simple, very simple. This will get you a lot of mileage because people love to run at you with the right strikes. You just start swinging with the left strikes. If you're going to gamble, quote unquote, that's what people like to call it when you just swing. If you're going to gamble, you know, even if you don't know what the hell they're doing, just go with the left strike. I mean, it's probably a right strike anyways, and you might get some mileage here. But what this will also allow you to do is it'll allow you to start to sort of, we're going to get into reading later and how to kind of learn how to read, but it'll get you to understand like what a right strike really looks like. People will talk about, and I don't want to get too far in because this is going to be, I don't want this to be a long video, but you know, you got to learn what these attacks look like from a lot of different angles, and you have to kind of learn to read kind of like the opponent as a whole and not so much like what their weapon is doing. And the best way to do that really is just to start picking an attack and just trying to only find it, even if you're wrong. Like just start, if you think it's a, you know, if it looks weird, but you're like, is it a right strike? Just do it. If it chambers, like nice, you were right. But if it wasn't, then you can start to kind of put that image in your head and be like, all right, this wasn't a right strike. But yeah, do that for me. Get into an evasion game, chamber every stab, and chamber every right strike, right? Or at least open with these left strikes very quickly and try to hit people with it. And then see what happens, right? I think you're gonna find a lot of success. People love to just run at noobs like this. And if they do, you're gonna get a lot of mileage just swinging wildly. So I hope that helps. It worked really well for me once I started doing it. Oh, perfect timing. It worked really well for me once I started doing it, so hopefully it works for you. But next episode, we're going to talk about how to read opponents and how you can kind of introduce, how chambering can help you learn how to read.